right, back at trying to get to the bottom of the problems I'm having with this Elegoo Phecda 20-watt laser. Just pulled off my enclosure here just so I can get access to the unit. So what I did was all of these were snug. All of these bolts here, Allen key bolts, were snug. The grub screws on the ends of these were nice and snug, so there was no slippage there. And I have fluid movement. As you can see, nothing is binding as on the x-axis, which I don't think is the problem, the x-axis. I think my issue is the y-axis. The reason I say that is if you look at this should be read this way. So here's my x-axis and y-axis plots. So I did a couple of them. So what I did was I made a 200 millimeter by 5 millimeter rectangle, and as you can see on the x-axis, we're bang on 200 millimeters. So x-axis is reading correct. But then when you go to the y-axis, that should be 5 millimeters, and it's reading as about 4 millimeters. And then the 200 millimeter on the x-axis, or sorry, the y-axis, is reading, so here's my first one, first one was here, it's reading 195. So it's 5 millimeters short, which is significant, I would think. And then I went into the machine settings on Lightburn, and there's a calibration tool. It says if it's 200 millimeters, what's it actually reading, and you can put the number in and it should correct. And I did that, and it was getting to 200 millimeters. I was still a little bit out. So that one is 5. The other one was considerably bigger. It's reading 7 millimeters on that scale. So anyway, I did a couple of retries and sort of got it right, and then I drew a circle, and the circles are connecting now, well, barely, and you can see them out. They're out, and you can see that it doesn't look like a circle. It's actually kind of like planet Earth. It's kind of like egg-shaped kind of thing, but it's certainly not a pure circle. Squares I can get good. I had one on another board here, but here's the image that I'm getting when I print out a large size, and the vector graphic that I'm printing this from, these should be just like not even a half a millimeter apart, and you can see how this inner line, which parallels the outer line in the actual graphic, is just staggered all over the place. Same with this thing. If you see it, anyway, I don't have my computer handy here because I've got everything taken apart, but this is actually a really clean graphic, and you can see all the lines and outside edges are just warbly. So there is definitely an issue, and that's repeatable on any graphics. It's not just this one. It's as you can see, just doing a plain circle, you're getting really wonky results, and that will change. I could print that 3 times, and each one will be slightly different. So yeah, serious issue I think with the y-axis on this. So yeah, I was able to calibrate it, but I don't know that calibration is actually going to stay, because I think something is wonky. The actual bridge, or this assembly here, doesn't move. It looks like I've got the belts really snug. In fact, I've got them as snug as they can go. One of the failings of this design is when you look at the adjustment screws, like up here, they're at the full extension of their tightness. So you can't actually make it any more tighter than it already is. So you can see that it's quite tight. Same with on the other side of the y-axis tramway. And this is snug, and there's no play, and for whatever reason, and this is snug, these are nice and tight, and I've got this dialed in each time I do the standoff distance for focus, and I usually use it with this metal thing in the back, and then of course I clamp everything down so there's no way that these things can shift while I'm printing. And here you're looking at the bench that I have. It's a butcher block, very, very solid, level steel workbench that I have here. So I'm at a loss as to why this thing is completely messed up, and it's just not giving me accurate. So here's a number of prints, and these are all different settings that I've tried. So this isn't just, I'm just doing the same setting each time. So I'm trying to cut this graphic onto these business cards. And there you can see this double line action here happening. And then I can show you a good one that I managed to get done. And it's, yeah, no, I don't have it here. It's somewhere else. Oh, wait. Here they are. So here's a good one I managed to knock off early on, and for whatever reason, it just, and this one is a slightly different. This is a PNG. These are vector graphics, SVG. So there we have it. I'll continue to see what I can do. The next thing I'm going to try is to do a firmware upgrade. It looks like it has an older firmware. I really don't think that's going to do it, but got to try it. All right, I'm going to attempt here to do a firmware upgrade with this Elegoo Phecda 20-watt laser engraver cutter. And I'm just booting up my computer, entering the password off camera, and hopefully we'll be able to get this flashed up. It didn't work in Windows 11, but then again I didn't really give it a huge try. I just figured I'd flip to a Windows 10 computer and see if this thing works better. I'm in control panel, so we'll turn the power on the Phecda. There we go. And we should, under Device Manager, see this on one of the COM ports. We don't want to have that on. So there's the COM port, and it looks like CH340 is on COM 4. So then we'll go to Programs, C Programs, under x86, and it's going to be MKS, let me see here, or MSK, I believe, MKS laser tool. And there's the executable right here, which is that one there. And we're going to right click and go to Run as Administrator. And it's going to give me a, are you sure? Yes. So there we go. So it's COM4, 15200 baud rate. So now I'm going to go and pick the file, which I've put on CTemp. And it's under Firmware, Phecda. And there we go, and it's the DCL32, ZXWL DCL32, and this one is 2023-08-2901. And if you go on to this one, under Tool Information, this is 2023-08-0301, so it's an older version of the firmware on this. So we're going to see if updating the firmware is going to get us back to where we want to be. So we'll leave that back on the home page. And just to confirm, we did confirm under Device Manager, under COM port, yes, it's still seeing it. So we'll minimize that. And we're going to highlight this bin file. which is the newer version of the firmware, and this one is doing the main board, and then there's another file here that does the screen display. So we'll do that one if this is successful. So we go open, and then we go start. It says connecting. Oh, and Windows 10 is working. Windows 11 wouldn't get me this far. Interesting to note. And it's going through its motions. I say it takes about 2 minutes, so we'll sit here and let it drag out. And to do the TFT or the display one, you do the other file here, and then you have to change it to 4 megabyte flash size. And then you also have to hook it up with a USB-C card from the laptop. So I've got a USB-C port on the side here, and then we'll pump that directly into the display and see if we can get some progress on that as well. Now I hear that I did some reading on some of the forums, and I guess what happens is it reverses an axis control or something, so we may have to go back into Lightburn and reverse the X and Y axis again, because I had to do that for these here, which are the 4 limit switches that I attached. So there's one there, and 2 underneath on the X carriage here. Still doing its thing. Panel 0 firmware successful. Flashed, unplug, replug, or reset device to switch. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually go and change the port or change the USB. The video I saw didn't show them starting and stopping this. I want to make sure that the screen display is going to be up to the same firmware. Otherwise, maybe the two won't talk, and I might brick this thing. So we're going to do the other one next here. So I'm going to stop this here, and then I'll pick it up where I've got it connect to the USB-C to the screen display connector. Okay, I put it up on its side here, and you can see the USB-C port is for the display is right down here, and I've got a USB-C, and it's going to USB-C connector on my laptop running Windows 10. And I've left the power on. It didn't say not to have the power on, assuming that it needs the power to do this flash routine. So once again, we're going to change flash size to 4 megabyte as it said in the instructions from Elegoo. And then we're going to go and find that other folder, which is the ESP 32 TFT, and then this one is dated 2023 10.11.01.bin. So we're going to highlight that and open that, and then we're going to hit start. Could not open COM port 4. The port does not exist. So not sure what I need to do here. Let's go back to the instructions. So let's go start. Could not open. So maybe we do have to flash and reboot. And of course, it's not a COM port either. So let's try COM 6. It just changed COM ports, I think. Oh, there we go. I just had to change the COM port, and now it's writing to the display. So of note is the fact that the COM port changes from 3, which is the main board on this, and when you plug it into the USB-C, it shifts over, and you have to hit the drop down menu here, and it tells you what the new COM port that it sees is. And as you can see, it's doing its deed. This one apparently goes quicker than the main board. I think they said 2 minutes for the main board and 1 minute for this one. So let's see how this behaves. Panel 0 firmware successfully flashed. Unplug, replug, or reset device to switch back to normal boot mode. There we go. So we're going to turn the power off. We're going to disconnect. So I turn the power off here, and then we're going to disconnect this connector. I don't want to muck it up here. There we go. It's in there quite stiffly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back down, and then we'll pick it up from there. All right, now the moment of truth. Getting a little dusty in here. Move my coffee cup. We're going to power it back on. And there we go. So then we go Tool, Info, and now it says that we've got firmware 2023-08-2901 installed. It doesn't tell you what the display firmware is, but that did get a successful install, so I assume that it's correct. And there we go. So I've lifted that up just so I wouldn't muck up the laser as I was moving things up. So I'll have to reset the focus point on that. And then now we're going to try a little bit of a test, hopefully. I pulled the steel mesh out, and I put a thicker piece of wood in here that I'm just going to do a quick engrave test. It's not going to be ideal, but I just want to see. What I'll do is I'll let's see if there's any kind of a wow side on this thing. Yeah, that one doesn't rock at all. That'll be nice and solid. It's heavy enough, it's not going to move. And what we'll do is I'm going to set up an image, and hopefully, and then of course we're going to set the focus point here. Oh, there we go. Set the focal point up on this thing. Lift up the stand. Now we're good there. And then I'll put the orange plate on there before I do my glazing. I'm going to do this without, because this is going to be a high speed, just engrave. Won't be a lot of smoke. I've got the garage door open. So what we'll do is do a quick burn out in the open like this. I'll have my glasses on, of course, and I won't be looking directly at it. And we will see what happens. We're going to plug the laser in here. That's disconnected, and we'll set up for a print, and I'll get back to you. Okay, one of the first things I bought when I bought this thing was, before I even received this, I got this pair of certified laser glasses for the safety glasses for the frequency, covers the frequency range of this blue laser. So it's a good idea to use these versus the ones that came with it, which actually have no certification on them. So just to show that I'm following the standard safety protocols, these are quite a bit more expensive. Anyway, I've got it set up here, and as you can see, here is the graphic. And where I'm getting the problems is, you can see this is a double line here, and what happens when I do the prints, let's see if I've got one here that's going to show it. So this is what it's actually coming out as. So you can see that little double line, how spaced out it is, and how this double line that goes up into this area here, and you can just see how wonky the actual lines that it's following are. And this is the actual clean vector graphic in SVG format that I made from a graphic off the manual. I used that using Inkscape, and you can see it looks really tight, really clean and everything. And then when you print it out with this laser, you get that botch job. And that, whether I print it on a business card, metal business card, or scale this up and down, that's what's happening with this laser. So you can see various attempts. This is an actual different one. It's getting a little bit better, but I actually had to take those double lines out in order to get that. And then, yeah, it's just, it's all over the map. Like, here's a really bad one that came out. And I've tried to see that. Look at how horrible the laser is tracking on the outer edge and the inner edge of all those lines. So anyway, I'm going to, I'm probably going to, like I say, it's going to reverse. I'm going to go off camera here and make sure it's set up and make sure it's not going in the wrong direction and stuff. I'll do a couple of traces with the frame and just make sure it's going to fit on this piece of wood. And then I will make sure it's also the controller for absolute control is working properly after this firmware update. It sure as guns when I did the home key, or the home button here, after I did the firmware update, it went up to the top left corner, and then of course when I tried to frame, it tried to go beyond that, and then it started grinding and everything. So I ended up switching it to go back to here. I just had to change the y-axis because the x-axis was going to this side. It wasn't going to the right side. Which is unusual. When I got it out of the box and I put the 4 limit switch, I had to actually reverse both the X and Y limit switch controls there on the machine settings. And so now we can try framing. And it looks like my frame is going to be up here somewhere. So I just move the sheet, or the wood. I don't have the laser on. I just have to do the shift key to get the laser on and at 1%. Oh, it's quite big. Okay, I'm gonna have to shrink this considerably. That's a 400 by 400 millimeter work area, so obviously it's too big for the sheet. So what I will do is I will reduce that by, I don't know, 50%-ish or something like that, and put it in the middle. And on the settings, cut lay, got 70, 85%, that'll burn good. So I'm going to hit stop, and then I'm going to get home. Oh, no, now home is going back up the other way again. Weird. Stop. Yeah, and here's when I hit frame. Watch it go gunchy. I'm going to turn it off real quick. So if I go home, see? So something went skewy in the settings. So if you go into Tools, Machine Settings, you go into, oh, we got to turn it back on to get it talking. See how it's now going up to the top left? I had it going once to the bottom left. And let's hit stop here, see if that works. It's hard to see with my laser goggles on here. Stop. No, stop isn't working. And I think the COM port changed on me again. COM 4, there we go. So if we go edit, machine settings, and then I go to Y homing direction invert, it's on false right now. And if I go true, okay, then oh, let's see what I did here. Machine settings. So I want Y, homing direction invert. So I go true, and I go right. And I go OK. And then if I go home, now it does this. And then I bet you if I turn it off and on again, it's going to go back the other way again. Anyway, let's see what happens. We won't sit you through this whole thing. Seems to work, so I powered it off, and then I powered it back on again, and it's now homing back to the bottom left on the machine. So now when I go frame, I've reduced the size of the graphic. You can see here. So if I go frame, there we go. It's showing me the frame parameters, and what I'm going to do is just change. The laser isn't on right yet, but I still have my glasses on just in case. There we go. That'll work right there. And I'm going to maximize the use of this board, so I'm going to pop it down to there. And let's hit print. And I've got my laser glasses on, but because it's not shielded, I'm just going to walk. I'm going to hit it start and walk away and let it run, so you won't see it actually engraving. There we go, a colossal improvement. The only thing is you can still see how far these lines are apart? And apart from there, and this is a different type of wood, so you can't go by the color adjudication on the other basswood that I was using. But you can actually see it's pretty darn good, except for that is totally expanded, and you can see in the graphic how tight that line is on there. So it's still got some issues, but look at how much better that graphic is. So we may be onto something here. All right, I've pulled up the business card that I made that I've been having so many problems with, and fingers are crossed, and we'll see what happens, because this is the same vector graphic that I used. And so the settings are basically, so when we go to cut here, so it'll frame first without just at 1%, so it'll just make sure that I'm in the frame. All of the lettering is on fill at 7070, and then the image itself is 7070%. 7,000 millimeters per minute for the actual image, and that seems to be working pretty good with these metal cards that I've used. And of course you can see it down there. I've got the shield on here now, and I use these little sticky labels just to stick it down, and then of course I've got the main sheet that it's burning on top of clamped down with a bunch of these clamps into my steel mesh. So we're going to push play again, and I'm not going to, again, because I don't have the enclosure on, I'm still, and I've got my laser glasses on, I'm just going to push play and then let it run its course, and then I'll come back and we'll see what the results are. And see whether I have to throw this out into the backyard and stomp on it, or maybe I've made it live for another day. Okay, so here we go. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, that's a pile of poo. It's even worse. Let's do it on wood and see what happens. Might have to change the setting, but look at that graphic. Yeah, it's just terrible. Okay, let's try it on wood. And this is the basswood, and that's the frame that I use. That's what I've been using as a template. So let's try it again. This time I'm going to turn on the air chummy and get my glasses back on, and just make sure that it's back in frame still. Doesn't really matter because the sheet's big enough. Seems to be following. I turned the laser off for this framing. And the first pass on this is going to be the border, which is 77,000 at 1%. So it just basically turns the laser on just to make sure you're in frame. So we'll get out of there before it actually starts cutting on the number 2 and number 3 items there. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Start. So much worse. Look at that piece of crap. I mean, at least before I was getting some decent graphics and everything, so sheesh.